I'm live. Sorry, I was gonna fix my hair. I'm not finished yet. Okay, so I was gonna do this on Father's Day, but I wasn't feeling well, so I'm doing it now. It's freaking smoking hot here right now. Anyways, so I'm sorry that it's not pre-scheduled, but that's what happens when you don't know if you're gonna feel well or not any particular day. So this video, A Father's Love, I'm gonna probably edit out that later, so watch it while you can. Father's Love, advice for my beloved son. This is why I was gonna post this or do this live on Father's Day, but again, didn't happen, so here we are today. And I'm gonna basically read it because I wrote it down, and might make me a little emotional because I am a girl, after all. So, A Father's Love, advice for my son, is the title I've chosen because it kind of catches in my throat, and if you try saying it out loud, you'll find it does to you too. Either because you had a good dad and you feel very fortunate, or maybe because you didn't have a good dad or your dad wasn't around and you don't feel so fortunate. So I was lucky. I had a really great dad until I was 12, and then he passed away. And you know, I was lucky because I never doubted my father's love for me, which was amazing. You know, I only had him for a short time, but you know, he was my hero, and I just wish that I'd had the opportunity to have had his guidance for different times of my life. My mom, she was an emotional mess for a long time after my dad died. She didn't even date for 10 years. She tried to exit stage left, if you know what I mean, after a while because she just wasn't getting over it. So what I'm trying to say is fathers are so important, and I think they are highly undervalued by society today, but that's a whole other topic. I won't go there just right now. Let's see. Also, as you found out in my last video, or not my last video, but a video recently, I have an older brother, but he was like long gone by the time I was, you know, old enough to be aware of anything. He's 11 years older than I am. Let's see, what else do I have here? I know there's lots of men out there who longed for a good relationship with their dads, but never had an opportunity when they were young. And honestly, that totally breaks my heart for you. It's, well, obviously. And sorry, I'm sweating like crazy here because it's hot. Let's see, what else did I put? For those of you who do have wonderful fathers, I'm so happy for you. I hope that you tell them at every opportunity how much they mean to you. And if you've never said, they're working outside, this is why live streams. Anyways, ignore the landscapers. This happened last time, I think. Anyways, so yes, tell your dad any opportunity that you can, that you know you're proud of him, that you love him, that you appreciate him. And you know, if you are a dad and you have sons, then hopefully some of this advice is advice that you can give your sons. And you're probably wondering, like, as a woman, how can I possibly be giving you fatherly advice? Well, that's because I enlisted the referencing of another dad, the internet dad. Let's see here. Okay, so internet dad. Okay, so yeah, you probably know of the channel Dad, How Do I? It's like a super popular channel. Rob Kenny is the man who is the owner and, you know, star of that show, and he's basically a guy who his dad left when he was 14, and he was missing out on fatherly advice. So he imagined that after having his own children and then grown and gone, that there must be other sons out there who are also lacking fathers to give them advice, or other fatherly type figures. So I I'm going to reference his blog he did on this topic, and then I'm going to give you a couple extra tips that I would give my son if I had a son. So that would be the motherly advice portion. I don't know why I'm not seeing your comments. I apologize. Let's see here. Okay, things he discovered. So the advice that he actually posted on his website was more about the things that he discovered for himself during the course of posting videos on his channel. But I think that they're really good tips, just a tip, for sons particularly, but any man really. So number one, be true to yourself. Like many people, you probably want to be liked, but when it's all said and done, you live with you. So there will be times in your life when you want to compromise to please someone else. Now, I've talked about this a lot, in my friend zone or nice guy videos. So if you're someone who tends to overcompensate in accommodating other people, then you definitely want to watch those videos when you get a chance. My nice guy playlist. And so I just want to note here, this is an AJ note, there's a big difference between occasional compromise that feels good and constant sacrifice at the cost of you. So modifying behavior that doesn't serve you or others is vastly different than changing the core of who you are. And you should really never negotiate the core of who you are for anyone, for any reason. Number two, don't get ahead of yourself. So what Rob means by this is to try not to plan too far down the road and not be too attached to that plan. So things change, life happens. Sometimes things come at you from left field. Who knew what was going to happen in the last year that has had such an impact on all of our lives in so many different ways? Some positive, many we will struggle to find the silver lining in for a while, but there's probably a silver lining in there somewhere. You just might not know it yet. But the point is that there's a lot that's out of your control. There's just nothing you can do about that. My side note on this one is sometimes you can do everything right and things still go sideways. So you got to learn to roll with punches, recalibrate, reevaluate, and then get back up and try again. Timing is not always going to be in line with your desires and you'll need to adjust. Number three, be kind to yourself. So some of you think you're kind to yourself, but you're not really kind to yourself. If the thoughts that you were thinking out loud, you said to another person, they'd probably cuff you up the side of the head, because a lot of times you're not thinking very kind thoughts about yourself or your actions or your behaviors or who you are in the world. And you got to cut that out. Yep, you just got to knock that off, because it's not serving you and it's not serving anybody else either. What does he say about this? So he says he tries to read most of the comments on his YouTube channel. Now he's got 3.5 million subscribers, so I know that's impossible. I can't even get to all the comments on my channel, and I'm just a wee channel compared to his. So, he says he feels bad not being able to get to everyone, and I totally get that. I feel bad. Like, there's a lot of guilt in not having been able to clone myself yet to be able to get to everybody. But he suggests that you have to be able to take care of yourself first, because you won't be able to take care of anybody else if you don't. And that's so true. So that's where I also had to step up and set boundaries about, my time and my abilities, because not only am I limited in, my energy levels sometimes, but there's only one of me, and then at some point in time, it becomes logistically impossible to get to everybody. Sadly, sorry. So he says he's learned to set boundaries. So my little interjection here is that part of being kind to yourself is in setting boundaries, not just with others, but also with yourself. So sometimes that kind of goes back to people pleasing, where you might have to restrict yourself from doing some of the things that you're used to doing, maybe to get validation or to confirmation or for whatever reason, but it's just really not healthy for you to always be doing that for other people, and maybe not even always. Maybe you're in a place where you just can't do it as often as you'd like to, and you have to learn to take care of yourself and respect that. Let's see here. Oh yeah, and so I give an example. My goodness. So a few years ago, I kind of learned this the hard way, because I was a people pleaser. Definitely, I absolutely have a really difficult time disappointing people. It's impossible not to, but I was always trying my best not to let anybody down. And given what I'm doing, I had a bunch of friends who came to me at that time with various interpersonal and life difficulties. And it was just really overwhelming. Like, this was after my mom died, and I just did not have the emotional capacity. But I didn't want to let them down because they were suffering. I mean, these were serious concerns they had. There was death, divorce. There was someone who was, unfortunately for a temporary time homeless, and a breakup, of course, so a lot of painful things were happening in their world. And I wanted to help them, of course, but I just couldn't. And so I finally I had a business coach at that time, and I called her. Anyone who knows me knows I do not like the phone. I'm allergic to the phone. But I was so desperate that I called her, and I was like just crying. Like, I didn't know what to do because I was absolutely emotionally exhausted. And she said I had to set boundaries. I was like, oh my gosh, that's like so hard to do. And I did a video. Later I'll put a link to that video. It's actually quite emotional, but it's about setting boundaries. And I did it. I really fumbled. I didn't do a good job of it. I actually lost a couple friends because of the way I set those boundaries, because I'd never done it before. So, it was awkward, and came across as maybe a bit too firm. But I did it, and then, after the dust settled, I realized that, once I practiced, I could be more gentle. I could have more delicacy in the delivery when setting boundaries in future if I needed to. And setting boundaries doesn't mean you have to be angry. Like, sometimes you have to get to a point of anger to be able to set boundaries. But once you actually start practicing, you'll get better at it, and then you'll be able to set boundaries in such a way that is gentle and respectful of the other person and doesn't feel bad to either side. And if you can do that, and the other person isn't capable or in a place in their life where they can hear that from you, then that might be a sign that they're not really supposed to be in your life anymore, or very close in your life. Sometimes we do outgrow people. Anyways, that was like a long side note there. So anyways, I got good at setting boundaries. Number 4, enjoy the ride. Okay, so Rob's How Do I YouTube channel, it shot up to the top of the charts in a really short time. Like, I think it was less than a year. And it was really overwhelming for him. He says he felt exposed and unprepared at first, but he's learned to slow down in order to take it all in. So he reminds us, you don't know how long things will last, whether they're so-called good or so-called bad. So you just have to kind of take everything in stride. Make sure to enjoy today, all its wonders, and don't worry too much about where you're headed, because you can only do so much. So side note, AJ side note, that's me. As many of you have heard me say, you can only do what you can do. And that brings us to the bonus tips. So these are the tips I would give my son if I had a son, or if you are young enough to be my son. Many of you are. Number 5, love is the biggest risk of all. Okay, there's a truth bomb for you. So, yep, stats show that there is actually a greater chance of breaking up than staying together. So you could love someone very deeply, and then they leave you, or maybe they cheat on you, or you grow apart and they're the brave one that decides that it should end. Which is part of why you should filter before you commit to someone. and know what your values are, which means you should get my Wake Up to Love program and actually do all the work in it. But the reality that is less often considered when it comes to love is that if everything goes right and you find this perfect person and you feel like they're your soulmate and you wake up every day happy to be with them, one day that's going to end because we all die. So you might have this, beautiful connection with someone, and in the end, one of you is going to go first, most likely. I mean, if you're lucky enough to go together, awesome, but the chances are that either you're going to go first and you're going to leave behind a very heartbroken person. If you're in a situation or have experience, I do have a playlist on heartbreak, which I'll add later. But the reality is, that person that you love might be the first one to go, and then you're going to be left without them. And that's hard. Like, that's why love is the biggest risk of all. It takes a lot of courage to know that there's two potential outcomes, that they might leave you or they might die first. So it takes a really brave person to sign up for this. All right, where else do we go? Yeah, and then God takes them. 6. Despite love being the greatest risk of all, love is worth the risk. So loneliness. Oh man, loneliness is an epidemic. We are more digitally engaged and more personally disconnected than ever before. It's no wonder depression and anxiety are all-time highs. As well, loneliness now accounts for more early deaths than heart disease and what's the other big one? Can't remember. Some of the majors. So loneliness, anxiety, depression all lead to untimely deaths or dis-ease. So it's really serious. We've never been so mentally and physically unhealthy as we are today, both individually and as a society. As you can tell, just look around us, my goodness. And there are 2 main cures for our illness of the soul as it pertains to love, community, and connection. So that's the answer, community and connection. So you're either going to suffer with the loss of someone you dearly love, or you'll suffer from a life of loneliness and its dire effects. You're going to suffer one way or another, so you just have to choose the course of your suffering. You can either risk going for love and either getting rejected and never finding it, or finding someone and losing them. Or you can cop out because it's just too hard, or all women are, insert whatever negative you want to put in there, or life without them is just better, or there's no good ones around, or whatever you choose. If you want to go for the life of solitude, that's okay. But I would strongly advise that you work on the things that are actually going to really make you happy, regardless of whether or not you choose love or choose the solo path. And if you want the video on choosing the solo path, write a comment and I might do a video for you on that. Okay. Oh, and yes, I have lost love, and I have had people I love die, several, and it's heart-wrenching, but it's still worth it. Which brings us, let's see, what did I put here? Just before I reveal the next and perhaps most important advice I'd give my beloved son if I had one, be sure to check out my Wake Up to Love program if you're willing to bet on love and want the map to get there. Okay, number 7, trust God's plan. Wait, don't click away. If you're not a God person, or if that makes you kind of feel prickly, then just insert life's plan. I'm not asking you to believe in God, and I'm not giving up God myself. So learn to trust God's timing and divine plan, or if you wish, life's timing and unpredictable plan. Sometimes what we think is good for us has some hidden dark side we can't see. This is definitely something I've learned in my own life. Sometimes we work so hard and use so much effort to get something that we think we want so badly that we actually do get it. Despite God's plan or life's plan, we overcome all the obstacles only to find out that it's not what we thought it would be, and that it's not as good as we thought it would be, and sometimes we even regret getting it. I have been there. Read my memoir. Yeah, read my memoir. It's crazy. It's kind of fun. Sometimes you get what you want because of sheer willpower and effort, because there are lessons you need to learn. Now, if you learn those lessons, you won't have to learn them again, because then you'll know them and you'll see the signs and red flags as they show up. And maybe you won't push so hard to get that thing that you thought you really wanted, and you'll start to understand what things are worth efforting for and what things maybe are not really worth the effort. Okay, that's my whole thing. So I'll put a link once I post this to the Dad How Do I blog, where the first 4 tips in this vlog came from, and what else? Oh yes, and if you have some fatherly advice that you would like to give to the sons of the world, whether or not you have any, or that you wished you would have learned from your dad if you had been given the opportunity, but you had to learn on your own, please add them to the comments. Look at me smiling. Oh my gosh. Yeah, just share your wisdom, and that way we can all learn from each other. Hope you're liking this 70s vibe that I got going on here today. I would like to know how I can access these comments. I don't know why they're not showing up for me. I'm so sorry. I will try to answer some of them after I post this in the regular comment section. So yeah, thanks for showing up on this unannounced little visit, and I will see you next time.